And I love Jim Kimo West. I really do. This guy is just amazing. And when I was watching and listening for the nominees for the Grammys this morning, I'm going, okay, maybe someone I know will get in there. And Jim Kimo West, congratulations! I've got Jim on the line, and he got nominated for a Grammy for your new CD. Your album.
Mahalo, Cindy. Thank you so much. It was a shock, I tell you.
That's such a big deal.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe it. There were so many, as you know, we all get lots of CDs in the mail from the different entries, and there were so many great records. I thought, and there was even one from the Dalai Lama, I thought, well, I don't have any chance, but it sure is nice to listen to all these great records.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. You're a great guitarist, and the new one you did is called More Guitar Stories. So, these times you don't know exactly when you submit something, what category it's really going to be put under. Because, right, it could have been an instrumental, right? It could have been considered an instrumental, or even maybe something in another category. But it was you submitted in the New Age category. Is that right?
Right, I did, because my previous record, Moku Maluhia, got nominated in the New Age category. And I thought, well, I don't know, maybe that's what they think. Maybe that's where they think I fit, so I'll just try and be safe and submit it in that category.
And you were right. And you know what? It's so interesting because typically in the past, we might have thought of New Age as something that would have been, kind of maybe piano, right? You'd think synthesizers, piano, maybe chanting. But to see now the New Age embrace your beautiful guitar playing is, I think, in a way, it expands what we consider New Age as well.
I think so, too. But, also, when you think of, when I first heard of the term New Age, that was, actually, I remember when I first came to Los Angeles, before I ever came to Hawaii, I used to write a lot of instrumental music, and somebody said, that sounds like New Age music, like Windham Hill Records. And I hadn't heard of the term New Age, and I hadn't heard of the term Windham Hill, so I started doing some research. And I actually found that some of that early New Age music was guitar-oriented. There was Will Ackerman, who was a partner in Windham Hill. And, and so he had these beautiful guitar records. And so I think actually it's sort of almost like the category is now sort of embracing, some of what it started with in the old days.
Well, in case people aren't aware of your background, you love Hawaii. I think, are you in Kauai still right now?
No, I just got back to Los Angeles, but we were on the island of Kauai for 10 days, and it was very nice to be there.
Uh-huh. And now you're back in L.A., and you got the good news. And you play with Weird Al Yankovic, and typically you would have had a year that was extremely busy on tour. But everything changed.
Yeah, right. Well, actually, we had a couple or 3 years of busy touring, and we actually had planned to take this year off, which was actually quite fortunate. Now, we were planning on starting a world tour in the coming February of 21, but that's got pushed back, of course. Now we're not really sure when that's going to start. But I was lucky early this year, before the pandemic hit. I was on a tour called International Guitar Night with 3 other guitarists, these fabulous world-class players, Cenk Erdogan from Turkey, Mike Dawes, who's a fabulous fingerstyle player from the UK, and a guy named Olli Soikeli, jazz player from Finland. And we had this great tour in January and February. We started in Alaska, and we played a lot of Western Coast, Western dates, some East Coast, and some Canada dates. But I did get a chance to tour this year. I was so lucky, and I think our last show was March 6th, and as we flew home, the airport was completely empty. And, and then the next couple of days, it was like lockdown.
Wow. And, it's so interesting because you play beautifully, but the way you play and with your records is really not the way you play with Weird Al Yankovic, though.
No. Yeah, with Weird Al, it's a rock show. It's a big rock show with, the big lights and PA and thousands of people. And there is some acoustic playing in the show, but it's mostly electric and jumping around. And, I started playing on acoustic when I was 12, I guess. And my older brother, who's 10 years older, was like a folkie, and he played finger picking. So I picked that up early on, and then by the time I was 16, I was playing in rock bands with a Les Paul and Marshall amp.
But
so I've always played acoustic and electric, So they've never one or the other. It's always both.
What did you record? This one that just got nominated for the Grammy, More Guitars. What kind of guitars did you play on that?
I have a couple of a Taylor guitar that I use a lot. I also have a baritone. I think it's a Tacoma baritone acoustic, which is tuned quite a bit lower. And then I have a few other guitars, some unusual ones like a soprano guitar, which is tuned very high. And I also had a number of other great musicians, playing on the record. Jimmy Johnson is a incredible bass player. His regular gig is James Taylor, I think. A lot of really great players, violinists and cellists and other percussionists.
Where did you record this one?
I always record at my own studio. Now, I've always recorded. I've had a studio as long as I've been playing. I've always played with tape recorders, and of course now it's all digital gear. So I have my own studio. Then I do all my records in my studio, and I do produce some other records for people here too. But this time, because of the pandemic, some of the other musicians had to play their parts at their own places. So I would send them the tracks, and then they would put their part on and send it back. So there quite a lot of the other musicians' parts were actually recorded at their places because of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because I always love watching you on Facebook, and you post beautiful pictures. And even your place in Los Angeles looks like it has a lot. You put a lot of Hawaiian flowers. It looks like there.
Yeah.
I
try to remind myself of home.
yeah, it has that feel, And but at the same time, I have to let people know, if they don't realize how amazing you are. You were here on tour. You actually were on vacation. You came in for an interview, and we did an interview live. And while you were here, I believe a fire broke out, and you could not get back. You had to drive. You were supposed to play with George Kimo on a gig that night, and you drove all the way around the backside to get back and couldn't play anyway.
That's right. I was scheduled to play the Slack Key show with Ken Emerson that night, and George called and said, "Hey, Kimo, you got to come around the back way because they closed the other road." And then so we were finishing up our interview, and I was on the way, and I got another message from George, and he said, "Hey, Kimo, they've closed that road too."
Yes.
But he said, "No worry, when you get up to the gate or the guard where they're stopping the traffic, just say you're going to see Uncle George." And that's what I did. I said, "Hey, I'm going to see Uncle George." He goes, "Oh,
magic,
right away, go ahead."
Magic words. And
so
then
I had the magic. The magic password.
It works. Uncle George is a magic password. And then I invited you the day of the concert that I had Rupam Sarma here, and George Kimo and Rock Hendricks, a great saxophone player, of course. And I said, "Hey, do you want to come play at the McCoy Theater?" This is the day of the show. No dress rehearsal, nothing. You showed up, and oh my God, it was magical. You played. It sounded so beautiful with you and George and Rock. That was
so fun, and of course it was very Hawaiian style because I didn't know what George was going to play, and that's backyard style. He starts playing something, I say, "What key?" And he goes, "Oh, G," okay. And when Rock was playing sax, and I was a little nervous though because Keola Beamer was out in the audience, and he's like my hero of Slack Key, and I said, "Oh my God, I'm nervous."
You were nervous. Oh my gosh, yeah. Keola's such a master. He's such a sweet man. And so, just truly, in the time I've just gotten to know you, you're such an honest, hardworking individual. And, I was listening to all the nominations for the Grammys, and truly a lot of the people and a lot of the bands and people, even though I kind of know a certain group, I didn't know a lot. So it really did my heart good to see that you got the nomination. And this is
I was very surprised.
Your second Grammy nomination now, right?
Right, yeah. This is number 2. I can't believe it.
Yeah. So now you'll get to figure out, like they're trying to figure out. I guess this year it's the end of January, I believe. Is it the 28th? It's the end of January.
I think so. Yeah.
And it's going to be, I guess, virtual, pretty much, huh?
I would imagine so. You know, I was talking to somebody about that. I had an interview with a Canadian newspaper this morning, and I was mentioned that on the Oscars they had a funny thing where I guess the people would be the nominees would be in their living room and with their friends, having some wine and waiting to hear the results, if they won. And meanwhile, there'd be a guy from the Oscars outside the door, like in a hazmat suit, basically, with a statue, and if you won, then he would come in and give you the statue. But if you didn't win, he would just wave by and leave.
I saw that, and I thought that was rather brilliant. And some of the situations were rather formal. Some had their own private parties going on. They're all dressed up and everything. But
yeah,
if you're doing that, you're going to have an Hawaiian style party going on, Jim.
Absolutely. If that's what they're going to do, we'll turn the house into Party Central. Maybe I'll fly over to Maui for it.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, I've got a call coming in, but I just really thank you so much, and a big congratulations going out to you.
Mahalo, Cindy. Thanks so much for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure, and I can't wait to get back to Maui and play music again.
Well, I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you, and I look forward to seeing all the pictures too.
Okay. All right. Ahui ho.
Ahui ho. Thank you, and congratulations. Aloha.
Bye.
Aloha.
Aloha.